all the time because I'm not an influencer, right? I'm a doctor of psychology. But
the conversation about your doctorate, because people can't find your dissertation online. How are you responding to that in this new era of your life?
I'm going to clear it up once on here. I'm not doing it again. And I'm clearing it up for my doc squad, for my fan base, for my audience who deserve to hear me address it. For the folks who have already made up their mind to not like me or not understand me, listen, I don't give a fuck what your narrative is. I would like for you to recreate it, double down on it, and run that shit. Because I don't give a fuck about it. Now, to my doc squad, my fan base, my folks, my village, it's very simple. I went to a school, Argosy University, completed an entire program. I went back online to get my official transcripts because I was applying to a law school many years ago to be a professor there. And I had to provide my transcripts, right, to get hired. And I went to contact the school and say, hey, I need my official transcripts. I need my entire thing. And there was no school. I was like, okay, I'm confused. I Google. It says this school has been shut down. I said, oh, well, they got to have records. I mean, they were accredited when I attended the school. They were accredited when I finished the program. I go and look, there is a third party that has the records. Well, I contact the third party. That third party only holds records for 2 years. I was past my 2 years.
So let's talk about it. It's your girl, Ava Cherie. Of course, the Dr. Cheyenne Bryant has come up. I've just been reading about it and hearing different people that I respect talk about it. And it's really not something that's like eating away at me because I've had experiences investing in myself with these, I want to say they're Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes and be seen and be heard on all stages and platform schemes and scams. It was a few years back, and I was telling my then partner that I was offended and I was waiting for God to allow me to reveal what the experiences were. I dropped my first book in 2019, so I was moving in different author and speaker circles and getting different coaches, driving all over the DMV, which is the DC, Maryland, Virginia, the tri-state, Delaware, Jersey, Philly, and New York areas to get in all these different social networks and climates to get my name aligned with the people that was allegedly going to elevate me. And everybody pumped out the social networking. Oh, you got a social network. That's not really my juice. But I realized that I was doing a new thing as an entrepreneur, and I needed to break my own boundaries of how I felt about letting people in my vibe, in my space, because I don't really vibe with everybody, especially the cliques. I don't do cliques. I never did. It just gives me the hives. I don't like cliquish people. I'm not needy. So when I had to do these things, I had to invest $2,500, $3,500. I've had to invest a lot of time. Every mentorship to get through any part of the gate, which the gatekeeper still held the gates closed, it came with a hefty ticket. And at the time, I was swiping credit cards. I was married. Monetarily, I was doing okay. So I knew what was coming from where and stuff like that. And I really truly carried it as an investment, just like I did with my undergrad and grad school. You count these things as an investment, and that you feel like if you work hard in your fields, in your industries, it'll pay itself, which we all know with degrees now. I've even taught my grandkids to get trades. It takes a long time to reap the reward sometimes in your industry. After the degrees, you have a lot more longer to pay those student loans than you do to see the benefits of your salary. So when it comes to Cheyenne Bryant and this whole debacle, during that investment journey I was on, I've seen a lot of honoraries, right? And the honoraries were so bougie. And a lot of them didn't even have associates, a bachelor's, or master's. But somehow they got an honorary. And at some point, I used to talk to my then person and be like, hey, I really went to school. I done went to 3 different colleges, did dissertations, theses. I went to in-person and online, grad, in-person undergrad, and worked full-time with 4 babies. And at the time I was not married. So I had no support, and I did it. And so what is this honorary about? I've done community activism, criminal justice boards. I've I have a nonprofit. Like, I should be able to get an honorary in my field, right? And I was going after these things because for me, I had worked so hard, and I'm like, if I earned it, it's one thing. But when I realized what it was, I wasn't tripping, because after I got all of my degrees and I worked in all these special, unique helping fields, I never put my degrees on my wall because people would judge and stereotype me. And so I always wanted them to play their hand. I always wanted you to treat me how you seen me coming. I always wanted to see your facades when you think a person has a name, no name, has credentials, no credentials. So I never would like put my degrees on my office walls because of that. And so it worked in my favor because it kept me humble. It kept me on the front line. It kept me sharpening my skills. It kept me remaining persistent in the helping field as an advocate for people and families and children. And I didn't get the big head thinking that, oh, I got this, so I'm just going to delegate my work to somebody else. So it kept me in position and helped me to create jobs for not just myself, but for other people. So fast forward, terminology, doctorate, master's, clinician, license, LCSW or LMH, licensed mental health professionals. All of these acronyms or accreditations after you get accredited diplomas and degrees. My last employment, I was a director of mental health for a school. And as a director of mental health, I overseen master's level and under counselors, the department. And I integrated a therapeutic model in the classroom to help teachers teach and have a therapeutic classroom behavioral model to apply in the classroom for these alternative academies. I was the only one with the master's at the time. So my job was to implement my bachelor's and unders level counselors who were getting their master's, in the process of getting their master's. You know, we made a therapeutic classroom so we can address the behavioral, psychoeducational needs. I was the first and the only director of mental health for these alternative academies until money got involved and they needed a person with a PhD. I was going towards my licensing, and you need like 3,200 hours in Delaware. But what happens is I never had to diagnose. I overseen the entire department, right? We contracted through my approval a psychiatrist or a psychologist to come in on site multiple days a week to actually give more intensive, extensive therapy and or send them to their location to get the prescribed medications that they need. But I was also called by these psychiatrists and psychologists a mental health clinician because I was working as the director of a clinical team. So there's terminology that people use in different areas, but it's not to say what you can do, it's to say what you're doing in capacity and in conjunction with somebody else or a team or a collective or a collaborative. So as a director of mental health, I didn't change my acronym after my name from Avis Cherie, MS, Masters of Science. I carried my MS the way I was supposed to because there were people that was hired to do the PhD part, right? So that's the difference. I didn't have to change it to clinician and all that, but that's what I was called every day. So it just depends. But when you're trying to get out here in front, even in all the years of my experience and being so close to getting my licensing and being a director of mental health was my last job, I was so close to getting it. And that person that gave me my hours moved away. That psychologist moved away, and psychiatrist. So I couldn't get my hours verified. So now I would have to go work for free or find another job. To this, like present day, I would have to get clinical hours from somebody I don't know, go work for free, go work for a small fee, and get 3,200 hours and take the licensing to become a licensed professional mental health counselor, LPMHC, or a LPC, a licensed professional counselor, or a licensed clinical social worker, which you have to have a master's in social work already to have that. So I'm breaking this all down because these are the conversations that we're having behind the scenes. But I wanted to say something a long time ago about the fraudulent behaviors in some of these people with the honoraries that were in some of the author and speaking and motivation cliques that put the doctor. Everybody had doctors in this one. I ain't going to even blast it. But there was this one movement where everybody turned around and had doctors in front of their name. There were doctors flying out the show. But being honest with you, once my first investment was made, and then the next investment said was 5,000, then the next investment they wanted was 10,000. Once you got into a level of investment, that's when I noticed that everybody in that investment group was walking away with a doctorate. When they did their videos and pictures of their school that they graduated from, though, they would fly past the name of the school on everybody's post. But I noticed, because I was in these conferences, I was in these rooms, I would go to each of their names on social media, and everybody was instructed to not post. Maybe a couple people did post the name. I was able to retrieve the name of the school to find out if it was accredited, because my schools are accredited. And that's another thing about Cheyenne. Listen, you can't even apply for a job without your transcripts in the mental health field. Because every time it's time to go out and do a certain kind of job or certain kinds of salaries, they ask for your transcripts, a sealed copy of your transcripts, which means you have to contact the school to get the sealed copies sent straight to the people that's hiring you. So they won't even take my copies, and mine's is in the envelope. I have copies of my degree. They won't even take that. Sometimes they want it coming straight from the school, straight to wherever it's going, because they have to verify, because I guess people out here scamming. So I've seen a lot, the honoraries and stuff. When it got into that 5,000 plus investment groups, people were popping their stuff. They were starting to get real cliquey, like fraternities, and they were looking down on the people in conferences that didn't invest to the 5,000 and up groups. All of a sudden, weeks and months later, everybody walking off the stage with a doctorate because they've invested into that school, and you just basically pay for it. Now, I've heard somebody just recently talk about just paying for your doctorate. Now, I'm a little pissed. Listen, I went to school with all them kids, and when I did my master's, that was the first I had ever heard of online anything, and I still had to go to the campus to do some stuff. For my mental health counselors at the school that was getting their master's, I was their field instructor with a master's. I didn't have to have a doctorate or a PhD. I confirmed their hours. I was who they needed to get their licensing. And here it is to this day. I don't even have mine because I don't have nobody to give me my hours, because my hours were actually logged and lost. Not on me, but on the organization and the person that clinically supervised me. So it's little nuances and intricate details that if you don't know what to anticipate or expect, you don't know how to prepare for it. And so to this day, I could be sitting at home as a licensed clinical mental health therapist getting paid a lot of money. But because of a mishap, because I was already in a position as a director of mental health and my clinical supervisor left the state with my log hours, there was no way to recoup those things or confirm that I had worked in that capacity over 5-6 years. So, I've had well over 3,200 hours, but there was no way to confirm it. Even by my job, they're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And it was a friend of mine, but I digress. I got played. And that was the last time I worked for somebody. To this day, I'm still seeking to get my clinical hours because I have all of my degrees and all of my knowledge. And I started out last year when I was going through my divorce under someone getting my clinical hours. And it wasn't a good fit. This person was very arrogant and very ignorant. And it wasn't a good time for me to accept anything. But just being in the classrooms on Saturdays, getting my hours, I realized how sharp I am. I realized how much I love what I do because it's purpose driven. I realized that getting through 3 degrees with 4 children and working full time for the state. Listen, it took a lot, and I did it, and having to go to school on weekends. I'm thankful to God. So I look at people that get honoraries and have to front, and I understand they want validation. And even with me having proof and having the actual did the work. I'm talking about that master's degree dissertation and thesis, child, was a doozy. And I'm talking about you couldn't miss no, you had to make sure everything dotted and the T's was crossed. Like that thing there, I couldn't wait to get finished with that. It took me like 6 months. So I get it. Even with getting that and still wanting to figure out, hey, how do y'all getting them doctorates? I felt that I was more than enough. I've exceeded the teenage mother stigma and stereotype. Already exceeded the expectations. I started out in nursing school back in St. Louis. So I was already in the trenches. I'm very smart. So but praise be to God. You know what I mean? So I was never going to sit home and let dust get under my feet and settle. You have to understand, like even getting all these accolades that I have beyond the degrees, is it enough for you? And that's what I think the bigger picture is. When is it enough? And then when social media and the world tells you you have to have X, Y, and Z, you have to stay humble and real with yourself and be transparent. Did all them degrees get me paid where I could sit back and chill now? No. Did I have a lot of debt? Heck yeah. I had to barter whether I was going to pay my rent or my loan, my car note or my loan. And I'm working as a director. Even getting all of the things and moving up, doing all the great things that I did, people still want more. And that's why you have to check yourself and say, when is enough is enough? And when do you come to the table with just who you are and just be grateful for that? And the biggest thing is just being obedient to God. He'll lay out the roadmap for you. Even through all of my starting in nursing school, coming to Delaware, going into criminal justice, coming out of criminal justice, going into human services so I can be on the front line of change, advocating for people, changing programs in the state spectrums for services, for families, for children and youth, for adults, for the violent offender reentry reform budgets. I did amazing things that I would never change. Child protective services, probation and parole reform. Like I did amazing things. And that's all my call. Advocacy, prayer warrior, front line. I'm so grateful. I would never change the 28 years of service to the state of Delaware that I've done in all kinds of capacities. And even still, I want to tell that little girl or that young lady or that young man, you're going to still get judged. I remember it still wasn't enough for some people. When I graduated and people attended my graduations, the few people that did of my family, somebody still said, oh, you going to open welfare cases? I never opened one welfare case. They hear human services or social work and they still minimize what you've done. That's because they've never had that will or determination or maybe found the need or the desire to go and obtain a degree. And the field that they were in didn't even require one. And hats off to them because trades are amazing to me. Life coaching was not even an option back then. So now, just with me being a servant leader, I've realized that accountability and mentoring and coaching is what I've been doing the entire time. As a financial means, I'm going to find a way to get my clinical hours to get my licensing because as an entrepreneur, I can operate and definitely make a ton of money servicing people and making sure that my financial needs are met because I've already climbed the ladder and gotten the degrees. Why not? It's not easy. I'm not going to say that. It's not easy. I would have to go under someone and dedicate 3,200 hours for free in some ways or maybe get paid minimally. But hey, it's worth it in the end. All right. God's love and God's peace to you all. Pray about everything and know what God is saying to you and know how God is leading you and tell God you're willing to accept that you are more than enough for his plan, that you are enough for his call, that you are enough for his purpose because he's already said so. Amen. God's love and God's peace to you all.